Can you say properly, please?
Okay, welcome to my channel, Casey Bennett's channel. Today's topic is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding in public, my breastfeeding experience, pros and cons of exclusively breastfeeding. Here we go. My experience, I breastfed Bodhi until he was, well, I'm still breastfeeding him. I breastfed him exclusively for 6 months. At 6 months, everybody said, okay, now you can start him on some food. So we didn't really start him exactly on 6 months with food just because we didn't have any food ready or prepared. And I thought I was gonna be like, oh, I'll just buy, I looked at like all these lists on Pinterest. I was like, I'll just buy this food. I'm gonna smash it up myself and give it to him, but I just haven't done it. So what I ended up getting were those little pouches. My favorite one is Ella's Kitchen because they're like super organic. They only have like the ingredients that they say is in it. So he is getting, maybe we're trying to do a better job of getting it once a day, feeding him from these little pouches. But for the most part, he's still breastfed. I would say like 90% a day he's just getting breast milk. And he breastfeeds on demand. So it's basically whenever I feel like he's hungry or he seems to be hungry, I feed him. We're not on a strict schedule of like every 2 hours. It kind of works out that he's eating, I think, about every 2 to 3 hours. But like I said, I don't really like monitor that. I don't use any apps or anything. I really am not sure how much he's eating a day, but it seems to be enough because every doctor's appointment that we go to, he's growing and he's on track and he's doing great. I'm gonna talk about first pros and cons of exclusively breastfeeding, exclusively being the first 6 months of breastfeeding. Pro, I think we really bonded over it. Obviously we're together like all the time, and no, it's just me and him. I'm the only one feeding him. His growth has been off the charts. Literally, he's like 99 percentile in height and weight, and that could just be because of my body type, but I think that he's doing so well and so healthy because of the breast milk. He hasn't been sick but one time really where we were concerned and took him to the hospital, and I think that also has to do with the breast milk because of its ability to like change and adapt to whatever the baby needs. Another pro, I lost my baby weight fairly quickly. I just recently, probably within like the last 2-ish months, got under my baby weight. I gained 70 pounds with him, and I can't remember, but I think by like 4-ish months I was back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. So that was positive. And Chris says that I eat all the time, but I attribute the fact that because I'm still breastfeeding, I'm still burning a lot of calories, so I can kind of be a little bit more lenient about what I'm eating. I got lucky that he latched pretty easily. We didn't have too many problems breastfeeding. I know that a lot of people can't breastfeed or have a lot of trouble when they're trying to breastfeed. So I had a slight issue, like I got sore on one nipple where I was not wanting to feed him on that nipple because it was like a little bit sore. And so I was feeding him kind of like 2 times on this one and 1 time on this one. And then I started producing more milk on one side than the other. So they were like, make sure you do it evenly. But that's really the only issue that I ever had. Basically from the beginning when he was born, he latched fairly easily. Another benefit is co-sleeping and breastfeeding. So in the beginning, the first few days, I was not co-sleeping, and he was in his bassinet or in his little co-sleeper, like the little ones that you put in the bed. I was like not sleeping very well, obviously, because I'm having to wake up, and I know that's normal. All new moms and dads, like you don't sleep well or at all when your baby is first born, but immediately, I think like within, I want to say it was before he was like a week old or sometime around that time that we tried putting him in the bed. I was breastfeeding him while I was laying down. I'm sure there's a term for that I'm not correctly using, but anyways. And so we were like co-sleeping with him in the bed feeding, and I wasn't getting up and having to check on him because that's why I wasn't sleeping before. I was like constantly checking on him. He was next to the bed, but I was up watching him. And so as soon as I could have him in the bed feeding him, I slept a lot better. He was sleeping better, and it was just like, this is a lifesaver. So I literally went from probably getting 1 or 2 hours of sleep to like 6 to 8 hours of sleep. It was amazing. And I think that like benefited my mental health because I was not struggling with postpartum depression or baby blues or anything because I was able to sleep a normal amount of time. And I really attribute that to the fact that I could co-sleep and breastfeed him. Cons of breastfeeding, of exclusively breastfeeding, because as much as I loved breastfeeding, there were things, and I do love breastfeeding, there are things that, you know, it kind of took away from. So one, I didn't have any sort of personal schedule, because basically I was on the baby schedule all the time because I feed him. I don't feed him on a schedule. I feed him whenever I think that he needs to be fed. That basically kills any sort of plans that I want to make because I just go along with whatever he wants to do. Second thing, I wasn't able to, the fact that I was exclusively breastfeeding kind of killed the ability to work, which I know people are going to be like, you could pump and it's still breast milk, blah, blah, blah. I know that I could have made it work, but the way that I wanted to mother him didn't allow for me to continue the job that I had. I had a really great job. I really loved it, but I just knew for my first baby, like this was important for me to feed him the way I wanted to and to be on demand for him. So that is my pros and cons for exclusively breastfeeding. My plan going forward, obviously we're still breastfeeding now. He's getting ready to be 9 months. My goal is to get to a year of breastfeeding. That's kind of what me and Chris talked about when we decided that I was going to go through with breastfeeding. So I think we're going to get to a year no problem because, like I said, he's not really eating that much other food right now, and that's to his benefit, or maybe not, I don't know. Lastly, I want to talk about breastfeeding in public. So I know this is a hot topic with a lot of people, and I obviously am pro breastfeeding. So when I was getting ready to have the baby, I didn't know how I was going to be. I didn't know if I was going to want to breastfeed in public. I wasn't sure how I would feel about it, but as soon as I had him, it just wasn't a big deal to me. Fairly soon after having him, we were leaving the house to do things, and I was fine with, I wasn't running around with my top off or anything, but I was fine breastfeeding him in public. It really wasn't until people around me started to make a big deal about it, or try to cover me, or were putting blankets over me, or trying to conceal me, that I was this is kind of annoying and it's making it a bigger deal than it has to be. It made me start to feel conscious about it when before I would have been fine with it, but because everybody around me was so conscious and was commenting and saying things, and I don't know, it just made me feel weird. So then I started to not do it as much, and I started to feel like I needed to hide myself, and I don't know, it just made me feel weird about it. So I still do breastfeed in public when I have to. In public meaning I'll breastfeed him in the car. I breastfeed him in a corner where it's kind of concealed, or I'll put a little barrier up or something, so totally in public, but it's still I do it. It's not I only breastfeed him at the house, but it's just not how it was before. You know, I felt conscious about it myself. I would do it sitting at the park or in a restaurant, and I still wish I was like that because it's a lot easier. I didn't have a breastfeeding cover when I started, so he didn't ever get used to being covered while breastfeeding. So as soon as I started to people started putting blankets over him or trying to conceal me, he didn't want to feed anymore. You know, he was oh, what are you doing? Why are you covering my head? It would be a lot easier if I didn't have to constantly worry about it. If I could just be oh, he's hungry. It doesn't matter where we are. I can just feed him now, but that's not the case. So capping everything up, breastfeeding is good. I obviously support it. I wish it was more normalized, and I don't know when our society is going to get on board with everybody else around the world who doesn't think breastfeeding is a big deal. It'd be nice if that was the case here, and I literally think the only way that that's going to work is if we as moms continue to support each other and try to push it out. And I don't like to have to be, I feel I need to breastfeed in public to prove some point. I don't want to be part of those oh, let's all whip our titties out and breastfeed together. I don't have to do that, but I literally think that's the only, I agree with those people. I just don't want to have to do that because it's pushing it in people's face. I wish people would just accept it on their own, but I think that's the only way. The more people see it as normal and it's out there and they see it, more people doing it, then they'll just get used to it. So maybe one day, maybe with the next kid or the kid after that or the kid after that, who knows when, but I hope it's normalized one day, or that we could just be like other countries where it's not a big deal. So I hope you like this video. If you have any questions or comments or statements or want to tell me something or ask something, leave it below and I will get back to you. If you have any things that you would like me to talk about next week and for another topic, let me know, and make sure you thumbs up and subscribe if you want want to see more, or if you want to check out our daily vlogs, you can check out that channel. The link will be below, and then you can just click this little button here. So, well, I will see you guys next time. Ciao.